This is a story about time, not a linear one, but an assemblage of episodes that discuss mismatches, compression, and the search for temporal references. It studies the Carbfix project of carbon dioxide removal and underground sequestration located in Hellisheiði, southern Iceland. Rather than a review of the feasibility of large-scale implementation or the legitimacy of this approach, this story moves beyond the surface of its activities. It asks, how does the compression of a landscape contribute to the search for temporal references in uncertain climates? 1. A timely context. The tale of carbon starts at the scale of the Earth. Across the span of 100 to 200 million years, carbon molecules move between the atmosphere, ocean waters, biomass, and rocks. The slow carbon cycle is a vital system of temperature self-regulation at Earth magnitude. From the perspective of carbon, climate change defines the imbalance in the natural cycle of distribution of carbon molecules between the planetary elements. In 2019, the Earth reached a concentration of atmospheric carbon of 409.8 parts per million, a record last broken at least 800,000 years ago. The climate crisis arises from a mismatch of timescales, the inaptitude of humans to react collectively beyond the present moment. Climate change requires a shift in time perception. Historical readings of climate change struggle to establish sequences of distinct episodes. On the scale of the planet, there are cycles of recurrences in which there is no clear directionality. Historian Dipesh Chakrabarty thus writes, quote, "The geologic now of the Anthropocene has become entangled with the now of the human history," end quote. On Earth magnitude, there is no temporal continuity. There are multiple moments at play, unfolding over vastly different scales of time and space. 2. The Carbfix project, Iceland. Here, where once was only Atlantic salt water, rain washes over bare rock. The movement of two tectonic plates and 130 gushing volcanoes formed the rugged terrain of Hellisheiði in southern Iceland. Its mountains and valleys are part of the process of chemical weathering and the planetary movement of carbon. The carbon cycle and its tectonics forces the landscape to be in constant movement. A consequence of divergent plate tectonics and underground lava plumes, the North Atlantic igneous province, which includes Iceland, is one of the largest accumulations of basaltic lava flows and hyaloclastite formations. The porous rock that compound the ground of Hellisheiði are the prerequisite for its activity of injection and link it with the deep history of Iceland and of the carbon cycle at large. Standing amidst the dormant volcano Hengel, the Pleistocenic volcano Grenselur and a gravel quarry, the Hellisheiði geothermal power plant run by Icelandic ON Power buries carbon emissions deep below the surface. The Carbfix process, an experimental method of crystallizing carbon-induced water under high pressure, is incorporated in the operations of energy production. The recent addition of Swiss air capture startup Climeworks in 2017 binds atmospheric carbon in geologic storage by introducing a direct air capture model that filters ambient air. 3. Changes in spatiotemporal references. At its purest form, the aim of Carbfix is to artificially accelerate and compress the chemical weathering of the landscape. In this sense, Hellisheiði can be read through the lens of time-space compression, a notion proposed by geographer David Harvey to signal, quote, "processes that so revolutionize the objective qualities of space and time that we are forced to alter, sometimes in quite radical ways, how we represent the world to ourselves," end quote. On an area of 11,000 square meters, reaching 2,200 meters deep, Carbfix operationalizes the landscape in order to replicate the slow carbon cycle of planetary proportions in molecular terms. The Carbfix project starts above ground. Powered by low-grade heat from geothermal energy production, Climeworks' direct air capture models filters ambient air to output rich carbon dioxide. Hereon, the concentrated gas is dissolved into water and injected underground via high-pressure wells. 800 meters deep below the surface, the dissolved carbon reacts with native porous basalt to form carbonate minerals under physical pressure. At 95% effectivity, the process of carbon mineralization, taking tens of millions of years and inducing planetary scale geologic movements, here is accelerated to 2 years. The technical compression is threefold. Physical, spatial, and temporal compression moves carbon sequestration from planetary to molecular, from a geologic phenomenon into human time. From October 2011 to May 2012, more than 4,000 earthquakes were registered around the Hellisheiði site, some of them exceeding 4 in magnitude and shaking the town of Hellisheiði 10 kilometers east of the plant. Instead of causing shocks through the injection of fluids, the geoscientists argue the project releases tensions naturally present in the ridge. It is the effect of accelerating 100 million times the naturally occurring process of a critically moving landscape. Their activities have converged man-made and natural ground deformations, locally shearing and intensifying the tectonic movements of the ground. They are neither natural disasters nor traditional industrial accidents. The activity of injection figures as a materialization of time on the scale of geography, a territorialization based on the intensification and attraction of shocks and motion. Volcanoes, caves, and hot springs, the deposits of the natural forces of the carbon cycle, attract many tourists to the Hengel area. Fueled by European budget airliners and the eruption of the E15 volcano in April 2010, tourism has become the primary industry of Iceland. Located 25 kilometers west of Iceland's capital and its major international airport, the Hellisheiði project is not only influenced by tourism, but actively contributes to it. Over its 14 years of operation, the geothermal energy exhibition has gained touristic attraction, competing with the natural tourism spots that surround it. In reimagining spatio-temporal references, Carbfix provides a basis for societal and subjective changes through altered perceptions of time. Through its injection wells, Carbfix collapses these deep strata with human decision-making. It engages with the abstract realm of geology by linking underground carbon weathering with commercial direct air capture. On Climeworks' website, private entities and companies can subscribe to monthly payment plans of carbon removal ranging from 8 to 22,000 kilograms of CO2 per year. By commercially collecting carbon from ambient air and storing it underground, the project undertakes a process of deep accumulation, linking geologic forces and the fluxes of capital. The act of breaching scales through drilling creates a level plane on which events of infinitesimal and extremely large timescales can be viewed together. In merging human and geologic forces through surface GPS location and satellite imagery analysis, the geoscientists are coordinating their actions with the movement of the landscape. They are learning to reference time in a volcanic landscape under high compression, a space condensing a multitude of timescales. In an article on the temporality of landscapes, anthropologist Tim Ingold explains, landscapes are neither exterior nor interior to human perception. They are with us. The corporeal response of the landscape to time-space compression is its seismic activity. The shocks released as a consequence of drilling amplify how humans encounter geology beyond the visual. 4. Geologic imagination. Located in uncertainty and breaching deep time, connecting it to human life, Hellisheiði reifies a distinct and uncommon understanding of our place in time, one that acknowledges our impacts that will long outlast us by depositing carbon waste into deep strata, but also one that positions humans into deep time. Carbfix compresses geologic and human past, now, and future. Rather than merely sequestering carbon, Carbfix intertwines below and above ground, the planetary and molecular, deep and human time. Their compression materializes the geologic process of carbon cycle and its entanglement with the subjectivities of daily life, tourism flows, and venture capital. It visualizes what is often overlooked, the landscapes of time we live with. As such, it marks the first episode from which speculative carbon futures can be conceived. 20 years after the predicted end of operations at Hellisheiði, a near-distant landscape can be imagined. A landscape preconditioned by human intervention, but independent of it. A landscape which emits carbon instead of absorbing it.